Gates, legendary philanthropist in the climate space, of course, in the global health space, putting out a 5,000-page memo, basically extolling his fellow billionaire class and investors to focus less on the existential threat of climate change and more on poverty and global health.
If Bill Gates had his way, all the while I was expressing the view that he now espouses, if he had had his way, it would have destroyed the world. Bill Gates. He is now aligning himself with what people like me, and I'm not the only one, I've had guests going back to 2011 on this, what we have been saying for a very long time. He's walking back his climate change prescriptions, not descriptions, his prescriptions, which were zero emissions. It's catastrophic. It's impending doom. I've been saying for a long time, it's not, right? You were a climate denier. Well, now that's mainstream. Actually, back then it was global warming denier. Then they switched it. Yeah. It's not. And I would say, you know what? Actually, this is going to hurt people. And it's probably going to be worse for the environment because you're going to keep these other third world countries thrust into poverty with these policies. Turns out now, Bill Gates agrees. Here's him referring to himself in the third person as a legendary philanthropist.
Well, tech mogul and philanthropist Bill Gates says resources used to fight climate change should be shifted away from that issue and used to combat other major global problems. It's a stunning claim given the current state of the climate crisis.
The other big story, Bill Gates, legendary philanthropist in the climate space, of course, in the global health space, putting out a 5,000-page memo, basically extolling his fellow billionaire class and investors to focus less on the existential threat of climate change and more on poverty and global health.
I thought that was Bill Gates referring to himself as legendary.
It looked like in the B-roll clip of Bill Gates looked like it matched the voice for a second. It fooled me too, but it's not Bill Gates referring to himself.
Okay, can you play that part again, just the Bill Gates part? Because it looks like he's saying Bill Gates, legendary philanthropist.
Yeah.
Okay, play it.
Legendary philanthropist in the
climate space. I get it. Okay, all right. My apologies to the Gates family.
Bill and Melinda?
Legendary philanthropist.
Why is it me that gets a
Christ-like? Me! Billy! Anyway, he's not a legendary philanthropist. He's an evil, evil person. And by that, I don't mean it's like some weird demonic possession. What I mean is he is actually pushing evil. He's pushing an anti-God, human race religion, effectively. And by the way, 5,000 pages is a lot, to be clear. But Gates enlisted some help from an old friend.
Hi. It looks like you're trying to memory hole your climate change hoax agenda. Need a hand?
Do you think Bill Gates sees how advanced AI is now? He's like, man, I'm glad that I came to this early because I would not have had a shot. That bent back paperclip was useless. Useless.
It was fun to,
They paid a guy to come up with that.
Yeah, I know.
The guy came up with like 300 characters.
Someone's just like, hey, can we like put a spell check in this? No. Okay, hold on. I'll come back to you with he comes back 3 weeks later. How about like a paperclip that's annoying?
It has eyes.
He like roasts you. You're like, what is this? All right, put it in.
Just make the program faster instead?
Yeah. No. Well, this is going to be good for us. Okay. This brings us to then and now. So let's go to back then. Bill Gates was saying that climate change was going to be catastrophic for humanity.
And he says going to zero means eliminating all greenhouse gas emissions or else.
If they wait 100 years to do this,
it's way too late. Then the natural ecosystems will have failed. The instability, the migration, those things will get really, really bad well before the end of the century.
Jeez.
And then in 2020, he even said, we need to act with the same urgency that we have for COVID-19 on climate change. It's funny that he talks about migration due to climate change, because that brings us to now. Well, Bill Gates says we'll probably be fine. He says, like, yeah, the climate change is like, it's a real problem, but it's not going to be the end of civilization, like I said for years. He says, although climate change will have serious consequences, particularly for people in the poorest countries, what you mean is your proposed policy, it will not lead to humanity's demise. People will be able to live and thrive in most places on Earth for the foreseeable future. Oh, glad we dodged that bullet after billions of dollars spent on your propaganda bullshit.
No kidding.
Thanks, Orson Welles.
Yeah, let's go back to then. Bill Gates. And here's the thing. People will be like, oh, I'm glad that he's making... No. Don't let him out of this.
No.
He said that emissions and the temperature rise, that those were the key threat. And of course, proposed policy that would kill many people and result in hundreds of billions of dollars of waste.
If you want to get to zero, you don't get to skip buildings or agriculture or industry or electricity or transport. You don't even get to skip planes or boats. You've got to have it all. As long as you have emissions, sadly, because CO2 stays in the atmosphere for thousands of years, the temperature just keeps going on up. And that's why zero is what we need in terms of avoiding the unknowns of what it's like to get certain temperature increases. We have to get to zero emissions.
Now, just to be clear, was everybody's interpretation of that we have to get to zero emissions because he said zero emissions?
Yeah, he said zero. Not even planes, trains, cars.
You got to do all of it, right?
Not a tree, not a...
Yeah. He said because as long as there are emissions, you're going to have a temperature rise. So zero emissions because of temperature rise. So just to be clear, that was all. That was everybody's impression, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Zero.
Okay, that brings us to now, where Bill Gates says that actually temperature emissions are really not the most important way to measure climate progress. He said, this is a chance to refocus on the metric that should count even more than emissions and temperature change, improving lives. You mean improving lives by forbidding them from using planes, trains, and automobiles? We're going to hold you to it, Bill Gates.
I mean, in some countries, it makes sense. Like if in India, if you took out the trains, that's a lot of deaths avoided.
Yeah, a lot of selfie deaths.
No more predators, you're fine. Yeah.
This brings us, it's always been, and I've been saying this, it's always been anti-people. And now they realize this has gone too far and people are rejecting it because they're having to deal with the consequences. Stick to your guns. Give them no quarter with these. Just say, no, I don't think you should be dictating. I don't think you should be dictating what people drive at all. I think that people should be allowed to innovate. I think that people should be allowed to transport themselves. I think people should be allowed choice. And you know what? That's how we actually innovate our way out of climate change if we believe that it's catastrophic. Let's go back to then. Bill Gates called for, and you can admonish me because I said hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars, really, to be spent on zero emissions. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, right, it's cited the famous McKinsey report, which states that capital spending in the net zero transition between 2021 and 2050 would amount to $275 trillion.
What?
By the way, global GDP is 111 trillion, so no idea how they'll generate that. There aren't enough digital paper clips in the world, you bitch. That brings us to now. Actually, spending on health and prosperity for the human race, that's actually the best defense against climate change. That's what he's saying. He's saying that economic growth is going to cut climate deaths in half. He wrote, as countries get wealthier, they use more energy. And if they use more energy, they get wealthier. Oh, sorry, logical fallacy alert. Time for a logical fallacy alert. Contradictory premises. Let me read you the definition. Contradictory premises, kind of self-explanatory, involve an argument that draws a conclusion from inconsistent or incompatible premises. Kind of like as countries get wealthier, they use more energy. As they use more energy, they get wealthier. And that's our biggest solution to climate change. But by the way, we have to get to zero emissions. This is, okay, so hold on a second. Let me understand this. The best way to solve climate change is to cut down on deaths. Okay, great. And as they get wealthier, they'll use more energy, and they'll use more energy as they get wealthier. And we also need to cut energy use basically down to, because energy use equates to some kind of emissions, unless it's nuclear energy, zero? How does any of this work? And by the way, everyone outside of Bill Gates and the climate change the religious zealots have been recognizing this for a long time.
I know. Well, and look, you've been actually saying this for a couple of years now, at the very least, many years.
Okay.
Come, let Zoltar tell you more.
I'm gonna hit the next pitch ball right past the flag.
We're gonna win the game, I guarantee.
Hey, maybe the Mexicans
Mexican government could have given those children the 60+ million that they actually spent on this conference. No, that's just crazy talk and wouldn't make headlines. But of course, that in a nutshell is how going green affects third world countries. They won't have the chance to pull themselves out of poverty as we have here in the New World. And with fewer and fewer countries being exempt from emission standards, it's going to become increasingly difficult. But see, the environmentalism movement today is pro-Mother Earth, and human life is often seen as nothing more than a byproduct or a nuisance. Who's most affected by the Green New Deal? Who's most affected by the Kyoto Protocol, which would skyrocket energy costs, which for us is mildly inconvenient because you drive a crossover, but for someone in Zambia, or honestly, you don't have to go that far, for someone in Mexico, if you can wander out of your Cancun booze cruise resort, they work all week just to get enough fuel so they can heat a can of beans on an old ironing board in a drum. Who do you think is most affected by your green policy? It's inconvenient for us. It kills people in the third world who make $2 a month. So they don't really care about the most vulnerable among us. Based on the premise of climate change, right, the reason for these heat waves, a false claim, you have the left advocating reducing or outright getting rid of air conditioning, right, because of CO2 emissions.
Makes sense.
And when you understand that that kills people to the tune of thousands, many, many, many thousands in the first world, and then you understand how many people die in the third world that we aren't necessarily even able to quantify because those records are not kept. They're not tip top. Right. They're not airtight with their records in the world that is third.
Come, let Zoltar tell you more.
I'm gonna hit the next pitch ball right past the flag.
We're gonna win the game, I guarantee it.
And look, I want to make one point here. You can go back to also 2014, 2013, and see interviews that I've conducted. Also, the reason I was shirtless, that was the last time I ever did any work with a nonprofit. National Center would pay for some videos. I was at Fox News. There was a Cancun Climate Summit. We got a press pass, but I couldn't actually record at the conferences. So we're like, I guess we'll just have to tape, record what we saw and heard at the resort.
Might as well go shirtless in the pool.
Well, it was kind
if
of
you
last
got the
minute.
shoulders,
I mean,
go for it.
I didn't. But I will say, I'm not an expert. I'm very clear about that. So how did I get it right? If nothing else, change my mind. Providing these references. I want standing your ground. I want sticking to your guns to be so easy that all of you can do it. How did I get that right? It's not that I'm anything special. How did we get COVID right? It's not that we're anything special. It's that this information was available and it was being suppressed. And now Bill Gates acknowledges it was true. If we just trusted the experts, well, we would have spent more than the world's GDP on getting emissions to zero. This is not without consequence. This is not hyperbole. If Bill Gates had his way, all the while I was expressing the view that he now espouses, if he had had his way, it would have destroyed the world. It would have entirely destroyed the world and thrust us into darkness.
Yeah.
He acknowledges that now.
Yeah, this has been a truly evil thing since the beginning because developing countries need cheap energy to get going, and then they develop better ways to get energy, cleaner ways, and that's how you build their economies. Except we've shut that valve off for all these developing countries that he claims to care so much about.
Right.
But it's not just that. As I was watching this, I was just thinking in my head, like, why now? Why the about face right now? I don't think it's because the climate change narrative has lost too much popularity. It's just not in fashion right now. But there's not a movement against it publicly, right? Not a movement firmly against it. What there is a movement for right now is more power. There's more power needed for AI. Massive amounts of energy are needed for AI. Microsoft is one of the top 5 most valuable companies in the world. I think north of $4 trillion in market cap. They are one of the leading players in the AI game.
Okay.
Is it possible that it's just a money thing for him right now, saying, well, I can't be against power that is necessary for the future, and maybe we can just innovate our way out, which is what we've been saying from the beginning. And my problem is that he's known this for a lot longer than most people have.
Right.
It's a theory, might be crazy, but it just seems like this is just money and power. Yeah. This isn't about caring about environments or developing countries.
Right.
At all. It never has been.
I've had people come on the show and go, well, you're a climate denier. I've said, no. I'm a denier that the international policy that is proposed, which would cripple economies and destroy modern humanity's way of life, I'm anti that they would even be able to solve the problem of a temperature rise of 1.6 degrees. I don't think it would make any discernible difference. And so I'm not willing to kill tens of millions of people through this policy. Well, now Bill Gates agrees. I think it could be an intersect of money, and he also sees the writing on the wall, the polls, where people are like, yeah, okay, climate change, but we certainly shouldn't actually abandon.
Maybe this tipped him over the edge.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's really hard. Like, if you need power, there's going to be emissions.
Well,
so you can't be on both.
Let's poll the audience. Why do you think the switch? This is not just kind of a modification. It is a 180. It's a 180.
Complete.
I'm glad that, he's got that idea now, but what I want to see is an actual acknowledgement of being wrong, an actual acknowledgement of, hey, what I said before was wrong and it was dangerous and I'm sorry for that.
Right.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Not going to see that.
If you look at the Green New Deal proposed by AOC.
The one-pager?
I think it was, 10 pages.
It was 10, yeah.
She was reciting Bill Gates' talking points. Now imagine if someone like that actually had power to get it done. I just ask that you guys kind of mark the people who've been at the forefront of this for a very, very long time. And I know that many of you listening, watching right now, you may be one of them. Pat yourself on the back. Stick to your guns. You don't stop compromising where a compromise isn't necessary. If you know you're right and you know the left is lying, like let's use COVID as an example. If you know you're right, stick to your guns. Just give it time. Here we are now. Climate change, the Kyoto Protocol. Now I believe it's the Paris Agreement. There's the Paris Accord. There was the Montreal Agreement, the Kyoto Protocol, Paris Accord, same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know that you were right. Stick to your guns. LGBTQ AIP, slippery slope. It's gonna come for the kids. You know you're right. Just give it time. Same thing with socialism, democratic socialism in the United States. Just give it time. Don't compromise when it's not necessary. YouTube's is something you're not allowed to say according to the guidelines. I was quoting the guidelines. I'm glad you're still here. It means you watched this video all the way through. Oh, it says here that Rumble, where you can go follow my channel, lets you say pretty much anything, provided it's not illegal. That reminds me of, what does it remind me of? Oh, yeah. YouTube, pre-2015. Go on and follow me there. I'm live, 11 a.m. Eastern, weekdays. Don't call YouTube a. Oh, it's just a different way of saying it's.